The actors are on strike. Disney CEO makes some missteps. Emmy nominations hit the news, and the box office finally heats up. That news and more awaits you after this. Welcome to Multiverse News, your source for news about all your favorite fictional universes. My name is Matthew Carroll, and with me today we have Haley Hobbs from Source Pages. What's up, Haley Hobbs?
Nothing much, just trying not to die in the heat here in the Midwest.
Oh my lord, wet bulb and all that. It's crazy. It's crazy out there. Sarah Day McDougal from Peeves Gabfest. What's going on, Sarah Day?
Hello, I'm so excited to be here.
We're excited to have you, your first time. And then the first returning guest, Ryan Doze from Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast. What's going on, Ryan?
Nothing much, friends. I'm ready to get into a lot of industry news about strikes and stuff. So it should be very fun and very lighthearted tonight.
Oh yeah. There's just like this whole like malaise of sadness over all the strike talks. Like everything, like it's just, even if we're just talking about the industry news of the strikes, it just makes it feel like, but all this means is we don't get any of our toys for a while. Like it's very sad. It makes me very, very sad.
I heard that UPS might strike, which is even more disturbing, maybe. I need my Amazon packages.
Yeah, that's rough. That is rough. The supply line of like delivery vehicles and stuff, like that's insanely essential now. And then we saw during the pandemic when stuff like that changes now, it's so ingrained. It's like toilet paper. All of a sudden there's no toilet paper, and it's just like they had to start like reformatting the way they were selling certain things. I don't know. I remember reading, or listen, I say reading because I like to sound smart, but I listened to podcasts where they talked all about people who were packaging food for restaurants having to like change their entire factories around to package food for home delivery because it's like chicken manufacturers. It's just crazy the way thinking about the way like some small changes can happen. No one's going to restaurants, so that chicken has to go somewhere and it's not packaged properly, so you have to redo the whole. It's wild. The world is wild and fragile. I'm scared.
If you take one thing from this episode, the world is wild.
That's right. Well, let's get into the news of the day. And I feel like the top news, we're already kind of talking about it. For the first time since 1980, the grind in Hollywood has come to a near halt as actors in the union SAG-AFTRA officially went on strike last week. The Screen Actors Guild and the Alliance of Motion Picture and Television Producers could not come to an agreement on a contract by the deadline at midnight last Wednesday. Some of the key bargaining aspects are economic fairness, highlighting what the union says are outdated contract terms coupled with the evolution of media business. The union wants increased compensation, the shoring up of funding for health care, retirement, and pension plans, as well as increased residuals. Artificial intelligence, the union states that AI already provides a threat to their work as it can mimic their likenesses and performances and voices, and are looking for protections that involve compensation and bargaining. Self-taped auditions, these, in the union statement, are unregulated and out of control. There is a desire to ensure fair access to work opportunities and protect performers against exploitation. Do we think these talks will continue to drag on like the writer's strike has? And what fates do these concurrent strikes spell out for the futures of our favorite fictional universes?
So I'm going to do my best Jay Sisson impression, and I'm going to try to sound really smart with this. But there was a few things that when I was looking into just trying to become more educated about this, because I could probably just, look at a few different posts online and be like, yeah, you know what? Here's my opinion on this, but I didn't really have a strong opinion. So I wanted to go to what are actors saying? What are people within SAG-AFTRA saying? And I went and I listened to SAG president Fran Drescher. That's not a joke.
Right?
No, it's very real.
It's very real. I went and listened to her, basically their declaration to strike. And Fran made it very, very apparent that this is about labor. This is about the disparity between laborers and those that they are working for. It wasn't really so much a like, hey, we're movie stars that should get paid more. It wasn't that at all. They were setting a precedent that what they do in this strike, along with the writers, is setting that precedent for a move into the world of labor, even beyond their own industry. So that was really interesting to hear her take on that, and basically the heart behind the reason why they're doing this and setting that standard. There was another statement that I listened to. Actor Sean Gunn was on CBS Morning a few mornings ago, and he was interviewed about, hey, why is this happening? And he had made a very poignant statement about streaming giants like Netflix. He specifically picked on Netflix in this interview, not being willing to be transparent with their numbers, and that was very, very shady to him. It was very disingenuous to him, and he used the term that they're screwing people like himself and not being accountable for their numbers. He was very, very how do I say this? He was very sure to realize, hey, we just want a percentage of what we're owed. If a property or a project fails, then it fails, and we fail with that project. But if it succeeds, that compensation needs to be at a fair ratio, where shows like, a few years back, Orange is the New Black was one of the biggest shows on Netflix. And some of those actors were still doing full-time side gigs when they were on that show. They weren't able to make a living off of one of the most successful shows that streaming service had ever seen. So, a lot of these fair points being brought up by the actors, I gravitated to. I love when the actors are stating why they're doing something, and it's not just a bunch of talking heads talking about why they're doing what they're doing. So these two takes really helped inform me as to what's important for them. But it could greatly affect the fictional universes that you guys and we like to highlight on Multiverse News.
Your point about the idea that this isn't just about the superstars. There were three things there that they highlighted, and one of them is self-taped auditions. That's not about the superstars. That yes, superstars self-tape auditions, but what they're talking about, because of COVID and everything, they've kind of stopped doing rooms as much as they had with people coming in to audition, and they just got I've seen this talked about on other things where but even before the strike, where just people are expected to kind of have your own, almost like your own production space in your house or in your apartment, little bitty LA apartments where they're doing little self-taped auditions, and it's like a grind of doing it all day and stuff, and people doing a bunch of them, and who knows if anyone's even looking at them. It's like this black hole of just sending your work that you're working on out into the world, and yeah, that to me shows that they are caring about the little guy, at least in in SAG, not just the AI and the financial stuff. That could be the superstars, but caring about self-taped auditions is definitely a thing for the little guy.
One thing I keep seeing talked about on Reddit, speaking of the little guy, is that the AI thing is actually about the background actors. They want to have the background actors come in, pay them for 1 day's worth of work to copy their likeness and even their voice, and then never pay them again for use of their face and voice. Yeah. And so that's one of the bigger issues, looking out for the little guy.
Doesn't that sound like the plot of a terrible villain in a movie? It's I'm gonna copy your likeness and we're gonna use it forever. It sounds like iRobot almost.
Black Mirror is something else, like a Black Mirror episode.
Right.
This is such a normal thing in a lot of workplaces where the work evolves, but the compensation hasn't, or the terms haven't. And to me, and I've been saying this for weeks, I've been saying this since the writer's strike, that this is catching up to Hollywood tells me so much about the state of labor and pay and equity in this country right now, because this is happening in so many different other industries, and Hollywood's going to be a splashier one for sure to get the attention. And to me, that it got to that level is just so indicative of the issue. And streaming happened and probably nobody thought twice about it. And certainly the studio execs aren't going to say anything. And then COVID hit. And if we remember Scarlett Johansson's issue with Black Widow when they tried to immediately put it on Disney Plus, and she said, "Excuse me, that was not my contract. That should have been like the first indicator that things were going to spiral out of control." And yeah, I think this could go on longer than initially. I was like, well, if the talent, quote unquote, the stars are out, maybe it'll speed things along. But I don't know. I mean, we're already almost to a week.
Mm-hmm. I'm all for. I'm playing devil's advocate a little bit here. I'm all for workers getting what they're owed, and studios not exploiting people, and like fairness and all that. But one of my concerns with these strikes, and kind of strikes in general, is I'm not one to believe there's exactly a fair thing. Like it's going to always just be what the two people can come to terms with, and the thing about media that scares me is I do think there's a bit of a shrinking pie happening right now. And I mentioned something like this a few weeks ago, but I see, like, speaking of Netflix not paying Orange is the New Black, like characters, that's terrible. That is terrible. That was their flagship show. But the thing about Netflix, their whole model was predicated on them throwing as much spaghetti against the wall and seeing what was going to stick. So they're paying for hundreds and hundreds of shows, and then that one did well, right? Like, and that's the thing. So like, but that model is not sustainable. Netflix has never been profitable. It's a tech company thing to not be profitable for years. You know what I mean? Like, you never figure out how a business works. When real, like, small businesses start, you have to figure out how the business makes money, and then you scale it. And the tech thing works backwards. You scale it, and then you figure out how to make money later. Like, we got all the eyeballs on us. Now, what do we do to make them pay us? Like, that's like the whole thing. And you just keep getting VC money pumped into these things. So, like, no one's really making the thing isn't profitable. No one's making money. And so it's this weird, like, I kind of think the industry is hitting this wall of, like, there's not enough money to go around for the amount of projects they have. And I think that these strikes are going to lead to a little bit of a reduction in the amount of work that's going around. I think probably some of these streamers, we even some of the bigger guys, we've talked about how Marvel's talking about cutting back their slate some and doing less. My hope is that if there is a reduction in that, like if we just see a scaling back in the amount of content, we see a improvement of the quality. It gets refined down to the better stuff, but I don't know that I trust the industry for that to happen. It's probably going to be more like lowest common denominator. They put the money where they think the money is, I don't know. Next up, now all that sadness, let's hear about the acclaims that are going on. Emmy nominations have been formally announced, and several shows are big winners, including Wednesday with 12, Barry with 11, Beef with 13, Dahmer with 13, The Marvelous Mrs. Maisel with 14, The Bear with 13, The White Lotus with 23, Ted Lasso with 21, The Last of Us with 24, and Succession with 27. Many shows from the geek world are also represented, including Andor, Miss Marvel, Rings of Power, Obi-Wan Kenobi, and more. Who's surprised by the slate of nominations this year?
This might be the first time I'm extremely excited about the Emmys. There's so many good things out right now. And my guilty pleasure is Love is Blind on Netflix, so I was super excited to see them nominated. But, I mean, some of these I've seen, obviously. Some of them I haven't. Like Succession, I have got to go watch this section. I mean, I'm seeing that everywhere. But Succession and The White Lotus are 50-50 for supporting actor in a drama and guest actor in a drama, which was wild to see that. I was really surprised to see The Bear as a comedy, because that show gives me so much anxiety. If I'm thinking of the right one. And then obviously my vote is for Ted Lasso. I hope that they take a lot of Emmys, because that show, I'm not a comedy person, but that show literally makes me laugh out loud. It has so much heart. I've cried during that show. I've laughed during that show. The acting is phenomenal. The writing is phenomenal. So I really hope to see them take a majority of those 21 nominations.
Yeah, this is a real hard pivot from the strike to all of the award nominations, right? But it's newsworthy and
excited to bring the conversation back to a happy place.
Yeah, and before we take it to a not happy place, but it is cool to see the breadth of shows that are being nominated. It's not just one genre and it's not just one tone. This is kind of all over the board, and we're getting a lot of really quality content, both in the geek verse and regular world, as I like to call it, I guess. And I think that that's awesome. And I think Obi-Wan Kenobi got like 20 plus nominations. Like these shows are stacking them up hardcore. Insane. So I love to see all the hard work that goes into these programs get this kind of recognition.
One thing that jumped out to me, it's not the series stuff, because I feel like a lot of times with the Emmys, it's like, oh, it's the series stuff, what massive hit does HBO have right now? Like right now it's Succession, and they're gonna like probably rake up so many awards. There was one category that I really wanted to just focus in on because I didn't feel like it was gonna get mentioned. It was the TV movie or the limited series. There's some outstanding movies that like the Weird Al Yankovic story was fantastic. It was meta, and Daniel Radcliffe was incredible. And the movie that I hope wins Outstanding TV Movie was Hulu's Prey movie, the prequel Predator movie. If you're a fan of Alien, Predator, darker sci-fi stuff, and you haven't watched Prey, you need to watch that ASAP. It is a fantastic movie, and it should win that category. I think it came out earlier this year, so it might be a little bit of a forgotten child amidst the crowd of all the popular huge shows. But that's the one you should check out. And like Haley and I will probably never get tired of singing the praises of the marvelous Mrs. Maisel. I don't think it's their year because there's so much other stuff coming. And this last season,
don't say that.
Here's the thing: my heart says I want Rachel Brosnahan to win everything for the rest of time. I don't know, but the Mrs. Maisel like wrapping in this many nominations for its final season and staying strong with nominations through its whole run. Definitely a testament to why I love that show and why I think if you haven't watched that show yet, you should go check that out. I mean, there's a lot of shows on here that I haven't seen or watched that I'm incredibly interested in. Beef is one of those that I haven't seen that I really, really want to see because Ali Wong and Steven Yeun are crazy good. But there's a lot to love here, and I'm sure like this is just going to be a crazy star-studded Emmys.
There's a lot on the list that I haven't seen, which is, I guess, good timing since we're not going to have a lot of content coming out that I can go back and make sure that I watch all these things. And I just have to say, I'm so embarrassed I didn't mention the Weird Al movie as the Harry Potter podcast host. Daniel Radcliffe, you're right, was phenomenal in that. And that's another one that actually made me laugh. And maybe I'm just turning into a comedy person now.
Sarah Day, you're so right. Like, Weird was... I didn't even know what to expect with that movie, and it over-delivered on my no expectations. Like, it was crazy how the way that movie ends, if you haven't seen Weird, the way that movie ends will have you like, what do we do now? Like, this is such a crazy way to end a movie, but definitely great. You should check it out.
I actually haven't seen the ending, which makes me feel weird now that you say it's because I watched about 75% of it with my niece, and then we just had to stop it for some reason. It wasn't that I wasn't enjoying it; we just didn't finish it. And then I got distracted, squirrel, whatever, and I got to go back to see how it ends. But the thing about Ted Lasso, yes, it's a comedy, but it also has tons of heart. And I wonder if like however that weird ending is like kind of there's so many things that are good comedies, but if they have that complexity behind them, you don't have to be a comedy person to enjoy them. And it's like it allows. I'm the same way. I'm just not. I like comedy. I love comedy, but I am not driven to watch something if it's just funny. If something's just funny, I'm like, I kind of lose interest. It's like I don't have to turn on the next episode.
Yeah, I think that's how I am. There's so many, like, I hate to say it because I'm probably going to get a lot of hate, but Step Brothers I can't watch it. I'm just like this. I know, I'm sorry, but it's just not funny to me. And like stuff like that, like Will Ferrell in general, I just can't watch his stuff except for Elf.
I knew you were going to say except Elf. Like, I knew that was going to be the way that ended. It's just so good.
It is so good. It's so good.
Zoe Deschanel, you know, she just.
So I'm assuming like you're not a Adam Sandler, Seth Rogen fan either. Like,
Seth Rogen, I can do like Pineapple Express. I did like that one. I don't know.
You are allowed to like what you like, Sarah Day.
Art is subjective.
I'm just getting this like triangulation of your taste, isn't it? It's interesting to triangulate someone's taste like that. Like Ryan's really like, okay, so you don't like this. What about coming in from the drug side? Do you like the drug movie? Yeah,
hot humor maybe. Like
the intersection of Sarah Day is like Christmas Will Ferrell mixed with drug Seth Rogen, like right in that range.
But I did not finish the new Christmas movie with Ryan Reynolds, the new one on Apple. Couldn't finish that one.
I didn't finish it either.
That's because Ryan Reynolds isn't it though, right, Sarah Day?
No, I like Ryan Reynolds.
And there we go. Haley just wants to burn and scorch things.
Just an extra. I like this Emmy category, or this Emmy story is just letting us all triangulate our tastes here. I like it a lot. I loved that this Scrooge take or whatever. I loved it. I didn't know it was a musical before I started. The new Christmas one with Will Ferrell and Ryan Reynolds. I
love musicals, so I thought I would enjoy it, but
oh god, he sings in it too.
Oh, it's full on. It's a full on musical. I loved it.
Things I'll never watch. No residuals from me, Ryan Reynolds.
I love when Haley has like really hot takes on things like that generally other people like.
Oh, Haley has hot takes. That's for sure.
By the way, Ryan Reynolds sucks majorly.
He's fine. He's got his gin. Like, he doesn't need my residual money. It's all good.
You're part of the 0.1% of the population that doesn't like Ryan Reynolds. It's like very,
Ashley
very
doesn't
small.
like Ryan Reynolds either.
Oh, that's crazy. You guys are nuts.
No, we're not. We're amazing.
No, I just like Ryan Reynolds a lot. But speaking on the Emeralds, I had not talked about this at all. I love Barry. Barry is one of my favorite movies of all our TV shows of this decade. I freaking love it. I also love Marvelous Mrs. Maisel. But weirdly, I do think it may not be its year. There's just too many other really killer things. And I think shows tend to have this trajectory problem where like they start high and end like sort of like they get forgotten over the years. If they get tons of praise at the beginning, it's really hard for them to maintain. Even if they maintain the quality, it's really hard for you to maintain the acclaim somehow. It's kind of like, oh, you got yours in the first season. People loved you in the first season. We're not going to give you acclaim this year. And like other shows like Breaking Bad or something, like start with no one giving it acclaim, and then by the third or fourth season, it starts to build trajectory toward an ending, you know? And I think that for whatever reason, Mrs. Maisel, I love the final season, but I heard almost no one talking about it, except for my really TV-loving friends. And of course, we haven't even mentioned The Last of Us on this list. The Last of Us... just one of the best shows. I was going to say,
we need to mention Pedro, don't we?
Yeah. Oh, that's right.
Yeah, we get residuals for mentioning Pedro.
Yeah. Someone's got to pick up the slack when Jay's not here. And Pedro.
TM.
Pedro.
He appears now. He's like Beetlejuice.
Oh, I wish.
All right. Well, moving on. Immediately following the public update of a 3-year contract extension as Disney's CEO, Bob Iger came out swinging against the actor strike, saying the workers have unrealistic expectations. Running his mouth some more, Iger stated that with the drive to ensure Disney Plus had plenty of content, studios like Marvel and Pixar, who released many different movies and TV shows, diluted the focus of their audiences and adversely affected the output of those studios. Bold words, Bob. Do we agree?
So Iger really got his contract renewed, and he was like, I'm going to go loose and just say whatever I want right now. Mm-hmm. So these are two very different things, though. The actor strike stuff, Sean Gunn also had a really great take on Bob Iger's words, and he really ripped him a new one, and deservedly so. It was tone deaf, and it was unnecessary, and I don't know how much Bob Iger makes, but probably more than I'll ever make in my lifetime. And for him to take that elitist approach when people are like we said, it's not just stars asking for these changes. This affects actors who are just doing background work, and that's what they can get right now. And, they're not at that point in their career. And I just hated to hear those words when he's been brought to Disney to right the ship that Chapek really tried to sink, right? So definitely not on board with that. The streaming comments are interesting because they're not unlike conversations we've even had on probably all of our shows at some point or another. We talked on our show on Source Pages last year about there was really this deluge of content, and it was kind of exhausting even just to keep up with it as a fan, much less be somebody who is doing a show about this content, doing research for it, reading stuff, whatever we're doing, reacting to it, recording. And it's been kind of nice to have this like breather of a year where we're not getting a show, a movie, a show, a movie, a show, a movie, a show, a movie all the time. I think, though, back to my straight comments, like COVID just really changed the landscape, and Disney Plus was new right before COVID, and they were trying to, like you said, fill this new service with content. So I don't disagree necessarily with him. I don't know that I agree with the quality comments that he made. I think the quality has all been fine and good, and I've enjoyed everything, but yeah, he really stepped in it this week.
Do you see the Clark Gregg thing?
Yeah.
So somewhere in his comments, we didn't have it quoted here, but somewhere in his comments, he said something like, Marvel finally got into the TV world where they hadn't really been, and it da-da-da-da-da. And Clark Gregg was like, excuse me.
Bro.
Yeah, he just continued to, like, put his foot in his mouth, and it's like, dude, I mean, I kind of understand what you're trying to say, but you're not coming about it at all from the right direction, and you just sound like an asshole millionaire, billionaire CEO.
It ain't classy. His words aren't classy. It's very, like, not thankful for the work that's been done for his company and, like, the workers.
Yeah.
Sometimes when, like, CEOs, like, make this, like, even billionaires, like we just said, like, they make these big comments. Like, yes, a lot of us fans, we are like screaming children a lot of the time. But that doesn't mean you as the parent get to scream back at us. Like, that doesn't make you look like you're the person in charge right now. And I loved Sean Gunn's response. It was like, back in the 80s, CEOs like you made 30 times what the lowest worker makes. Now, you make 400 times what the lowest worker makes. And of course, Sean Gunn is not the lowest paid person on any production that he's been on, but he's speaking on behalf of those lowest waged workers in these projects. And for, like, Bob Iger, who's Scrooge McDuck level rich, like, to make this kind of a comment, it's like, dude, it does, like, the optics on this is just bad. Like, there's no way around it, and you come out looking like the bad guy, whether you truly are, like, the only, whether you are the root of all evil in this situation or not, it makes you look like it. And that's just, like, that's a bad PR move on top of already bad PR because of the actors' strike and the writers' strike. It's like, you didn't help yourself at all. Not even in a selfish way did you help yourself. You actually, like, you had a black eye, and then you punched yourself in the other eye.
Well, and bad PR for Disney in general. Like, Disney's had kind of a rough go of it lately in the public eye for all kinds of reasons. Their parks aren't doing well. There's been all the the legal stuff that went down in Florida. I mean, it's just been sort of constant with them. And so for him, when there's maybe low consumer confidence in this brand, to step out and say this stuff, like, where was your PR person? As Jay would say, who was in the room saying, I don't know if you should say that, Bob.
Yeah. Well, and the interesting thing is, like, his comments, because of the current climate about labor and the current trends in labor, like, you just don't have the power. And say he's saying it like these are unrealistic demands, right? Like, that's just negotiation. Like, that's what he should say to the people in the room with him when he's arguing with them. But to say it in the public, you are giving them more power. Like, you are looking like the asshole they're saying you are. And you have no power because they do. They have the public behind them. And it's just, we're behind them. So start listening to them.
If his goal was to completely sway public opinion towards the actors and the writers, he accomplished it.
Yeah, maybe he's a double agent.
Oh my God. This is actually a plot to Secret Invasion. That's where this is going.
This is just a viral marketing campaign.
Iger is just a Skrull, let's just say it.
Yeah, he removes his masks and he's like, he takes out a picket sign and he's a Skrull underneath. He is Fran Drescher.
It's the plot to a Scooby-Doo episode we didn't know we needed. Bob Iger, what are you doing here? Oh, you damn actors and writers, I'll get you.
This is a little me and my girlfriend had just we saw some episode. We had joked about her being like Fran Drescher, and then we saw an episode of The Nanny, and it had so many similarities to things she does, like that. And it could have just been that one episode, but like so many little things that Fran Drescher did, I was like, that is absolutely you. That's you. You do that. And we were like laughing about it. And then the next day we found out the SAG, strike happened, and we see her as president, and she was like, this is so empowering. Like, she's like, was just talking about how invested, how similar to Fran Drescher. And then it's like, oh, she's a baller now. She's president of SAG-AFTRA. That's awesome.
And the nanny.
The nanny.
I love that show.
Me too. It's very good. It's very good. Been kind of streaming it lately in the background. Up next, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1 was on fire during its 5-day opening weekend, raking in a global $235 million. Both Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny and Elemental have crossed $300 million globally, while Insidious, The Red Door, currently sits at $122.6 million globally. With Barbenheimer opening this weekend, what do we think is going to happen to the current slate of films?
I think we're going to have Oppenheimer, Barbie, Dead Reckoning Part 1, and then everybody else. I saw Dead Reckoning Part 1 twice in 3 days, and so I contributed to that global because it is such a good movie.
Really is.
And I think it just continues to affirm what we probably already know, that Tom Cruise just really knows how to make a damn good movie. And so I suggest everybody go see it. But I do think it's interesting. We're seeing these numbers creep up here kind of towards the end of the summer. People are maybe getting finished with their vacations. Maybe they're home a little more. They're getting ready to go back to school. The kids are going back to school. It's kind of an interesting time. I'm going to be fascinated to see how Barbenheimer like totally flips the table on everybody. And I can't wait to see the numbers because I think they're going to be crazy. I've got my tickets for both already, and I know the pre-sales have been just out of this world.
So I'm home with the kids this week. My husband is traveling, and I told him, well, I'm trying to convince him to take off a day of work to watch the kids so I can go see Barbenheimer. He's not really up for it, though.
I think it was a few weeks back, maybe it was last week, but Jay and the crew were just like talking about how the phenomenon of Barbenheimer is kind of the story of this summer of movies. Yeah. And it's like there have been other good movies, and some movies haven't done really well at the box office. Indiana Jones, Flash, those, but really the bright shining beam of hope has been this phenomenon. And I love when there is like a societal underswell behind these movies where it's like, oh my gosh, are you going to go see Barbie? Hell yeah. Are you going to go see Oppenheimer? Hell yeah. Could they be two more different movies? No, like there's never been two more different movies to debut on the same night. And we're all like weirdly here for it. And that, to me, that has been the story of the summer. And it's been so much fun to watch the simultaneous anticipation for the films. And I feel like I need to mention this from a few weeks back when I was on, we talked about Elemental. We were talking about, it's not doing great at the box office. It has really turned around. It has gotten hotter, as like Haley said, it's gotten hotter as the summer's gone on. And I would imagine a lot of families are back from doing whatever trip they did. They see Elemental. My family was one of them. We finally went and saw Elemental. The quick review from my 5 and 6-year-old was that Waterboy and Fire Girl were a lot of fun. And honestly, as adults, it was an incredibly like heartwarming family story. My wife cried 3 times in the entire movie. I cried once, and it's because dad stuff just gets me now. Like no matter what, any dad stuff, it gets me. Elemental was a lot of fun, but I'm going to go see Dead Reckoning because Haley has been like waving the banner for it hardcore. Yeah. So, and I don't really even like really Tom Cruise movies, but I'll go see Dead Reckoning because my friend Haley recommended it.
When it comes to the Mission Impossibles, I'm the type of person that I need to see everything that comes before it. When it comes to video games, that's why I haven't played a lot of video games, and I haven't seen the Mission Impossible. So I'm like, I have to watch all these movies before I can go see. And every single time a new Mission Impossible, I'm like, oh, I gotta watch the old ones first.
Or you can just listen to Matt and Scotty and I break them down on Bingers Assemble.
I might just have to do that.
The weird thing is, I recommend them all. They're fun to watch and they're great. There are little through lines, but like every one of them is so separate from the others. Like you really could just go sit down. It
doesn't matter though. It's like a thing. It's like an internal thing. I've got it. If it has the same title, I gotta see them all.
Totally same.
Matt was trying to give you a way out, and you're like, "No, I'm locked in."
Yeah.
You could just start with Rogue Nation, Sarah Day. I think if you do Rogue Nation, Fallout, and then Dead Reckoning, you'd be fine.
I might have seen that one in theater because there was one time I went with a group of people and that was the movie they chose, so I was stuck. And I think it might have been that one.
I'm really looking forward to part 2 already. Like, this movie was so damn
part
good.
1.
Haley, do you know, is this supposed to like end the Mission Impossible franchise, or like...
It's the end for Tom Cruise in the franchise.
In quotes, or like the end?
Until like he's 80 and he needs like a Dial of Destiny return kind of thing?
When we talked about that on our review of Dead Reckoning, I was like, do I want Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise? I don't know that I do.
Is it even worth it to do Mission Impossible without Tom Cruise?
Nobody else is Tom Cruise. You know, he's crazy. Nobody else is jumping off of a motorcycle, like off a cliff.
There's certain iconic things that you just can't do without certain people, which we will talk about one of those in the lightning round here in a minute. But I thought it was interesting what you were saying about Ryan. I think about Elemental and how it's building steam. Kids' movies are just a different animal.
Totally different.
Kids aren't going to because it's opening weekend. Like they don't care that it's like I'm sure there's kids that see a commercial and go, "Hey, that movie that I've been waiting on is out." But like most of the time, it's about how many kids go to see it as a group. It's like families, when you can organize your time right and all that stuff. That's when those movies hit. We had some holiday weekends and stuff, and like those are the weekends where like you get the family out to go see a movie, and you pay the $90 to take 4 people to a movie or whatever. Yeah.
I was reading adults reviewing Elemental, and Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken is in our local theater this week. All these like kind of kids movies are coming out, and it was adults talking about like, oh, it's not really performing at the box office the way we would like. It's like as a dad, as a parent, as someone who's going to take a family to a movie, I do not care. Like if my kids enjoy it and they like have a good experience at the theater, that's what I care about. And I get it. Studios have to care about different stuff, but I think critics often bring like unrealistic expectations to these movies. Like, is it a good family movie that my kids enjoy? Fantastic. Like I saw one review, it was like, it's really not a return to form to the classic Pixar we're used to. I'm like, dude, I guarantee you don't have kids. Like, like honestly, everything I cared about as a parent, everything my kids cared about with the movies they enjoy. The only movie they've talked more highly about this year has been Super Mario, and Super Mario was like a phenomenon. So, yeah.
I'm like getting tired of critics and I'm thankful for social media in the sense that we can get real opinions from real fans. And I've said this before about like the Marvel critics, that do they really understand what Marvel is doing, and are they into it like we are? And like what, and especially like test audience, or like, yeah, I guess not test audiences, but they don't understand all of the, hot, wet continuity that we as fans do. And the same thing with the kids' movies. They don't understand what us as parents are looking for in these films if they're not a parent.
Sarah Day, can you explain to me what hot, wet whatever that was is.
I'm gonna let Matt explain that actually,
because
I think it's a term he coined.
I'm a little afraid to Google it. Is why I want someone to explain it
It's
to me.
not Googleable.
I don't think it's good.
I wonder if it's Googleable. I wonder if you type.
I need a
hot,
trusted
wet
friend
continuity.
and confidant to explain it
You
to me,
better go
so
incognito on that one, Matt.
my security search doesn't go crazy.
Nothing came up. No, it was a quote. Thank you, Sarah Day, for quoting. That was a quote from I think literally the first MCU cast. I think it was our first ever MCU cast, or it's one of our first three. So 9 years ago, it was just a joke. It was a dirty joke. I was like, I just love deep continuity. I just love deep, hot, wet continuity. And so for 9 years we've been saying, it's that hot, wet continuity, man. It's that deep, hot, wet continuity.
Gosh,
It's the cornerstone of our network.
hot, wet continuity. Wow.
And sometimes there are random other adjectives thrown in there too that make it even worse. But that's
I have to
awesome.
say, Barbenheimer, I was working with a consultant last week for my job, and he and I talk about movies all the time, and I was like, are you going to see Barbenheimer? And he was like, what the hell are you talking about? I was like, Barbie and Oppenheimer. And he's like, oh, I'm going to go see Oppenheimer, but I don't think we're interested in Barbie. I'm like, have you not seen the culture? And he's like, what are you talking? So I sent him a ton of memes and pictures, and I sent him the trailer because he's like, I don't want to see a Barbie movie. And I'm like, no, dude, this is Barbie has an existential crisis. You have to go see this movie. And so I sent him all that stuff, and he's like, okay, we're gonna go see it. And I'm like, yes, I would like a residual for that, please.
Okay, red string theory. Barbie starts her existential crisis by watching Oppenheimer. It's a plot point in the
That'd
movie,
be
right?
amazing.
It would
Can
be
you
so
imagine?
amazing if they did a reshoot to make that part of the thing. That would be that would be a real
so
next
good.
level.
Deep hot wet continuity.
It's Margot Robbie and Cillian Murphy sitting next to each other, just watching Oppenheimer, and Barbie slowly breaks down.
Yeah.
Great.
I love
That's
it.
good stuff. Okay, up next in our show here, we have the Spotify poll of the week. This week we asked another question instead of a poll exactly. What character do you most want to see in Deadpool that hasn't been announced? We got a bunch of Mephistos, so that's just, that's to be expected.
I mean, he's confirmed, obviously.
Where's Jeff
Yeah.
when you need him?
Absolutely, yeah. Where's Jeff? He just drops in from the ceiling. He's also like Beetlejuice, but you have to say Mephisto 3 times.
Oh, Jeff was one of the answers, by the way. I didn't put it on there.
Oh, Jeff was one of the answers. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. We got Tobey Maguire, not even the Spider-Man. Just Tobey Maguire was listed. I like that.
Angry at the paparazzi, Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
That would be funny, actually. I would find that amusing.
Yeah. Oh, that would be real good. Impossible Man would be a funny spin-off.
Yeah.
Spin on the movie. Ashley O says.
That would be really funny because Impossible Man is this impish, fourth wall breaking, reality rearranging villain. He's normally fights, he's comes into conflict with the Fantastic Four, but he just feels like the most Deadpool of Deadpool characters. With this current iteration of what Deadpool has become, this. Who knows, reality isn't reality kind of thing. Impossible Man would be really smart. Whoever put that answer in knew they had a great answer. So kudos to them.
Absolutely. I like his fourth wall breaking. Another very smart fellow named Jay Scoots, Jay Scotty St. Clair, I'm pretty sure, said She-Hulk, which is another fourth wall breaking character.
Yeah.
And I think that could be absolutely likely.
Hilarious.
And I totally see the version of She-Hulk that we just got interacting with Deadpool in some really funny ways. She's always turning to camera and talking. It would just be amazing. And so is Deadpool. It'd be amazing to see that interaction of them being both doing that and then be like, wait, you heard that? Wait, what's going on
Who
here?
are you talking to? Who are you talking to?
Be awesome. Be really awesome. We also got someone said Rogue. That's Chrissy said Rogue.
Always a classic.
Always a classic. Great.
As long as she's in the X-Men animated attire, that has to be a must. If we're gonna do Wolverine in the yellow suit, you gotta if you're gonna include an X-Men, do it in the '92.
What if it was just animated Rogue? She's
Oh
an
my
animated
gosh.
character.
Oh yeah.
That's another thing. I've heard of that. I was like, well, hey, why do they have to be live action? Why can't we just put an animated, like, go old school Disney, like Mary Poppins style?
Let's Who Killed Roger Rabbit this shit.
Right,
Who Killed Roger Rabbit, which we just got that a little bit in Spider-Verse. Yeah. So, like, they're doing it. The multiverse is happening, and some of it's in it. And in a Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness, they go through an animated universe. Like, they're doing this, like, animation can mix. And they're trying it. They're sort of dipping the toe in the ink there. I like it.
What's old is new.
This is going to be a really fun movie. I can't wait for it.
Yeah, me too. There's so many people are announced. It's going to be great.
I had referenced in one of the chats that Haley and I are part of, like, is there any chance Deadpool 3 is going to be bad? And it was like, maybe like a 0.1%, but like, this movie is going to be so much crazy fun. It probably...
I think I said, there's always a chance.
Right. But it's like with the amount of care and the amount of like anticipation and all the hype around it, I just don't see this movie failing.
The only thing that could make it fail, and I think, like, I'm kind of glad, I'm not glad about the actor strike exactly, but for Deadpool's sake, I'm glad for the actor strike, because they were still filming, and it was a big worry, because they were still filming while the writer strike had started, but the actor strike hadn't started, so they were doing things on set, and because Ryan Reynolds is one of the writers of the film, he wasn't allowed to improvise, which, like, that movie is so improvisational, the whole way they make those movies. So I like, maybe the writer and actor strike happening is like allowing the movie to stay quality. I was a little worried there for a minute when it was just a writer strike and they were just like not going to have the same visceral feeling to the dialogue and stuff. Last one we have is Channing Tatum's Gambit, says Jeremy B. That'd be great. That would be great. Very much like the Nicolas Cage Superman. Someone we never got actually happening, but would be cool.
That'd be so much fun. And like Channing Tatum was attached to that character for so long that I'm just like, that would be just fun to see become like, and do it like they did John Krasinski in Multiverse of Madness.
Yeah.
Like make it a 5-minute nonsense thing and then kill him off and move on. Like it's people that know will know, and people that don't know will be like, "What is Channing Tatum doing here?" And it'll be fun. Hey guys, it'll just be a fun movie thing, and that fun movie thing is
fun.
Well, you know, it can't just be Haley. It would be fun. That's what we need in Deadpool 3, because you know it's not gonna win an Oscar. Let's relax.
And Deadpool, much like She-Hulk, in the same vein, like. Deadpool is a place where you can just have fun. Yeah. Me and I do the Star Trek Universe podcast as well, and we were just talking about this week. They did a Star Trek. Sorry, my tip of the cap to Star Trek every week on this show. They did an episode that was just fun. It was funny. It was just a silly episode, and I could not. Like, I can't get into it. Like, I'm questioning all the jokes. Like, someone makes a joke. There's a joke on screen, and I'm like, but would that character think that? I don't know, because of this previous episode. Would Spock say that? I don't know, because Vulcans are early this way. And I'm, like, overthinking it, and I can't just let it be fun. Yeah, but Deadpool and She-Hulk have created these little pockets for themselves where, like, I mean, literally, spoiler alert for She-Hulk, skip forward 30 seconds if you don't want to know how She-Hulk ends, but literally that show, the plot of the show didn't matter. They decided in the last episode to just rewrite it because the character said so. Like, that's insane. So, like, she can do whatever she wants, and Deadpool's in that same cool space.
Much like She-Hulk, Deadpool will probably get some of this, critique of like, oh, it doesn't feel like a comic book. I'm like, actually, it's like the most comic book ever. Mm-hmm. She-Hulk was the most comic book show I've ever seen. And I have a feeling Deadpool is going to feel like that. If they do Deadpool Kills the Marvel Universe, it will be no holds barred awesome. It will be incredible.
Absolutely. But I agree completely. And somehow Ryan Reynolds has created this character that like could do that and still be likable, because there's a lot of characters in that Marvel universe that I like, but you could even see like a buddy movie where he's hanging out with Wolverine the whole time, murdering people, and then at the end he could kill Wolverine and somehow it'd still be okay. You'd still like Deadpool. He's just so likable, and they've created this likable character. He can kill anyone and you'd still be like, all right, I see why he would do that.
Haley, did you hear that? Ryan Reynolds is so likable, he can do anything, and he's still likable.
As you say.
Creative is subjective.
Do you think that we'll see Kang in this movie?
Ooh, that's a good one. I like that.
If we do, I wouldn't want it to be for long. Like, I think they could do like a cool little like one-off joke with him, and maybe to connect him to the bigger MCU. But like, I don't know. Who knows what Kang will be at that point in the MCU?
Yeah, I just can't wait to see what the connecting piece is going to be to actually bring him over to the MCU.
Yeah. Well, clearly he's just. We saw at the end of the last Deadpool that he has the ability to just jump around from universe to universe, time travel, all those things, literally kill Ryan Reynolds. Like, the whole thing just feels... you're welcome, Haley. The whole thing just feels...
I zoned out. What are you guys talking about?
Just more Ryan Reynolds talk.
That was only partially a lie. I'm not gonna...
All right, well, since we're boring 25% of the hosts of the show, we should move on.
It's been a long day.
Me too, man. Me too. We move on to the lightning round, where we take some of the stories that didn't make our main topics and just throw them out there short. Everybody gets to claim the story by buzzing in with their name, and they get to talk about that story. And so only one response to each story, and then if you'd like to say something, you only get one rebuttal per lightning round. So save your rebuttal for the one you really care about. Just one, everybody.
All right. Has a question.
Can I just say SD instead of Sarah Day?
Yes, absolutely.
It's much shorter. And you guys have short names.
I love that you raised your hand.
It's true. Yeah, it was pretty great.
I'm a good student.
I didn't even see the raised hand, so thank you, whoever called it out. Up first in the lightning round, Anthony Carrigan, fresh off an Emmy nomination for his performance in Body as NoHo Hank, is joining the cast of Superman Legacy as Metamorpho. Matt, I get to participate. I just love Anthony Carrigan, and I'll like watch anything he does. He's freaking awesome. Even in Gotham, which is incredibly mixed, where I first met him, in Gotham, he was like such a shining light in that show as Zaz. He's great, and now he's entering another DC character here with Metamorpho, which I know nothing about Metamorpho, but like if good old Anthony Carrigan is playing him, I think he just elevates every character I've seen him play. He's great. Up next, the first trailer for Wonka has dropped. The prequel film, which stars Timothée Chalamet as an emerging Willy Wonka, is set to hit theaters on December 15th.
Saturday.
Ryan, go for it, Saturday.
So when I first heard this news, I was like, another Willy Wonka movie. And the only reason why I watched the trailer in the first place was for Timothée Chalamet. And then I realized it's a prequel to the Willy Wonka story that we've seen. So I was like, okay, that's an interesting take. However, I think Timothée Chalamet, from what I saw in the trailer, let me down a little bit.
I'm right there with you. I will say a rebuttal to this one because, man, did I hate this trailer. And it's all it's all the Timothée Chalamet of it all. Like I'm interested in the world. I'm interested in the whole story. Could be interesting to me. Like it looks well directed. It looks well imagined. I really liked Hugh Grant as an Oompa Loompa. Like that all hit me just right. But everything Timothée Chalamet said felt like a high school performance of Willy Wonka. It's something, it really did. I hated it so much. He feels too young and not at all on character.
It felt like he was overacting.
That's kind of just Timothée Chalamet, though.
Shalamela bing bong.
I didn't get that from him in Dune.
Oh, well.
Well, I feel like in Dune, there is some overacting, but it's sort of that Shakespearean overacting where it's like fitting situation. When there's like a sandworm coming at you and you're like, ooh, like you're getting like revved up for it or whatever. I don't know. There's like armies of I don't know, what's a thing on Dune, Arrakis or something? I don't know. Like just armies everywhere, and like there's things that sort of overacting. Like there's it's like Shakespearean with the fall of houses and all that stuff. It makes sense. In Willy Wonka, it feels terrible. I hate this trailer.
Well, I liked him in Dune, and I liked him in Don't Look Up. And this just felt way off from those two performances.
At the risk of being torn apart by this pack of wolves, I will use my rebuttal here. So here's less about the trailer and more about what this movie could do. I was similar to Sarah Day's response. I was like, oh, another Wonka thing? But understanding this is a prequel of how we get to the weird, whimsical guy at the end, how we get to the Johnny Depp, Gene Wilder. Like, Gene Wilder will kind of always be Wonka for me. I didn't really even like the Johnny Depp Wonka, because that was like, that felt more like, hey, Tim Burton wants to do a weird thing. And so here's the few things that I think this movie could potentially have going for it. It's telling the story of how Wonka became Wonka. And that to me is like, okay, he doesn't feel like Wonka in the trailer. Well, we're telling the story of how he gets there. So maybe Timothée Chalamet, as a incredibly great young actor, can tell that story in a convincing way, and he doesn't replace Gene Wilder as the quintessential Wonka, but he can at least fill that gap in our understanding of how the character got there. I also think that the rest of the cast is so stacked with names that are going to put in good performances, like a Hugh Grant, like a Rowan Atkinson, Olivia Colman. Olivia Colman's in everything now. And then Keegan-Michael Key. Like, I'm always here for a Keegan-Michael Key performance. I think this could be good if it is a digging into the mysterious origin of Wonka and then showing us how we got there. Not trying to just recreate Wilder's Wonka or, God forbid, Depp's Wonka.
One of the things that I have the biggest problem about with it is this like weird, like he just seems too optimistic or something. And I get it's like a young upstart, I'm going to be a chocolatier, but like Willy Wonka is a dark character. And like, I don't feel any of that. I always talk about it with the difference between David Tennant and Matt Smith. People can come for me if they want to, but David Tennant's Doctor Who is like amazing and fantastical, but there's this like darkness behind his eyes. Like you feel like he could murder you. You know what I mean? There's like, but then Matt Smith comes up and he's like a puppy dog. Like he's still fantastical and fun, but there's no murder behind his eyes. And I need a little murder behind the eyes of Doctor Who. I feel the same way with Willy Wonka. Gene Wilder's performance is so layered in that like you really don't know, are those kids dead? Like what's going on? Like this feels like it's like a chocolate house of horrors.
Oh, they're 1,000% dead. It's a house of wax with chocolate.
Yeah, it's dark and it's weird. And in the end, when he tells Charlie Bucket or whatever that he can't, no, you cheated too. You can't become like. There's this like. Everyone failed me. No one lived up to the ideals that I expected to be able to take my chocolate house. Like he has this pessimism for society that's like all there. And this looks like The Greatest Showman to me. Like it looks like The Greatest Showman, but for like chocolate. Like it doesn't feel like, I don't know. Yeah. Maybe that'll be there by the end. Like I said, maybe he becomes that sort of dark. This also has drips of like Han Solo to me. Like I don't want to know. I don't want the mystery of what happened to create Wonka revealed. Like it's one of those things too. I don't know.
So
anyway.
There's this girl in the trailer, and it's been a while since I've seen the Willy Wonka, but I don't remember this character in that movie. So maybe something happens to her to turn him from this optimistic to this dark.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Character.
Very possible.
I just have to say, when you were talking about Matt Smith going from Tennant to Matt Smith and having Matt Smith be this puppy dog, and I haven't seen The Crown, but so for me, I saw Matt Smith go from Doctor Who to the House of Dragons character. So talk about a transition.
That's
Daemon Targaryen is so.
It
good.
Almost makes me mad because he had none of that as Doctor Who to me, and like. he is so dark as Damon, and I'm like, where was that? Where was that thing?
Irredeemable bastard.
Sorry to go off on a tangent.
No. I lured you all in by bringing up the Doctor Who. I made you use your rebuttals right now. Sorry about that. No, I'm just kidding. Okay, up next, we have several Hollywood projects have officially stopped production due to the SAG-AFTRA strike, including Deadpool 3, Mission Impossible 8, Venom 3, and Gladiator 2. Well, I'm sad about it.
You heard it here first, people. Matt is sad about it.
It's really, it's a bummer that all 4 of those projects have been halted. I was excited about everything.
Not a rebuttal, small add-on. I don't need Gladiator 2. I just want Gladiator to be Gladiator, and Ridley Scott stop.
Agreed. Also, not a rebuttal, just an add-on.
We're getting caveats now. This is getting interesting.
Yeah. Now you're all justifying your behavior. It's no longer just like, I'm going to do it anyway.
It's an add-on.
We're beyond Thunderdome. There's no rules anymore.
As a new Harry Potter podcast that started because the show is announced, it's kind of like, oh, well, okay. And I'm on board for both strikes. But it's just kind of funny. Like, we started this podcast in order to talk about the upcoming show, and we are doing a reread, so we have plenty of time to read all the books before the show comes out.
Yeah, that whole thing about starting a podcast, we started Bingers Assemble to cover movies, and then COVID hit.
And then
and then we started Multiverse News to talk about the news of the week, and the strike hit immediately. And I was like, all right, well, I guess this is what we're talking about for the next however long this lasts. And beyond. We'll be talking about the effects. For years, we're going to talk about this strike and how, like, not only is it a big deal and it's happening, but, like, when it ends, we're all going to talk about how would this show have been if the strike hadn't happened, and this writer didn't leave, or this thing didn't happen, or that felt rushed. Oh, why? I bet it was the strike. Like, this is going to be like a 4-year thing, like, where everything's going to be, all the productions kind of finish up, and they were kind of half done before, half done after. It's always weird.
Well, and we still haven't even, like, fully recovered from the ramifications of COVID.
Oh, for sure. Definitely. Okay, getting back to the lightning round. The Marvel actor Iman Vellani will co-write the new comic titled Miss Marvel: The New Mutant, alongside Miss Marvel series writer Sabir Pirzada.
Ryan, there is so much I love about this announcement. Iman Vellani is one of the most endearing people in media that I'm consuming right now. That part in the Marvels trailer where she's like, "Oh my god," and the Flurkin eats the guys gets me every time. The fact that she is mirroring the character she's playing in comics is intriguing to me, and I think she has the right amount of charm to do it. Paul Dano did this recently with a Joker issue, and that issue was well received, and Paul Dano kind of put his heart and soul into that. And I have a feeling Iman Vellani is going to do the same thing with Miss Marvel. Recently in Marvel Comics, Kamala Khan was killed at the end of a Spider-Man issue. It was kind of out of nowhere, and there was not really great reception for it, but it opened up this possibility that they're going to bring her back as a mutant, not as an Inhuman, which is what she's been recently. That doesn't matter. Most people listening don't really care about the nuance to that.
Oh, I would say that a lot of people care about that.
Okay, sorry. A lot of people with time on their hands don't care about that. And the comic looks fantastic. The supporting cast around Iman Vellani is going to definitely keep her writing tight, and the story's going to be really well told. Sabir just got off doing some Miss Marvel stuff in a dark web crossover. Fantastic. The two artists have been working on Carnage stuff and Miss Marvel stuff and Star Wars. It's going to be really great. And the covers are going to be by one of the co-creators of Miles Morales, Sarah Pichelli. Sarah Pichelli is a absolute industry pro. So this series has me excited for all the right reasons. And all the comic bros are probably going to hate it, but it's going to be a fun comic.
Mm-hmm.
Haley rebuttal. So I love this for Iman. She's living her best life, right? She's been a Ms. Marvel fan for a really long time. However that can be when you're 17 years old or however old she is. But to be kind of a devil's advocate for this, I kind of don't want to see a ton of actors starting to write and potentially take away any kind of recognition for current and future comic book or just writers in general, because it's kind of like, Matt, you and I have talked about this with podcasts. Like, yeah, we do this podcast and it's great, but then freaking Jenna Fisher and Angela Kinsey start the Office Ladies podcast. Well, how can a just normal person podcast compete with that? And that's kind of what this makes me think of a little bit. Iman is like a special case because she's just like very involved. She reads comics. She's very knowledgeable about comics and all of that stuff. But I would worry a little bit about that.
I would say it's a very different medium, and it is, the audience for comics is so much smaller than the audience for the movies and the TV shows. And I would say the fact that she's not actually writing it, she's writing it with Sabir Pirzada.
Yeah.
I would probably say that this is like, no offense to the project. I'm sure it'll be wonderful. I'm sure she will have her input. But to me, it sounds like a stunt. It's just like, hey, you know that Miss Marvel character, the actress everyone's loving? Like, hey, she's writing this thing. Don't you know? Did you know what comics are? Like, hey, 12-year-olds that like have only had their iPads. Do you know what comics are? You should come check this out. Like, they're trying to like spur on, because she's probably gonna write, I don't know, is it an issue? Is it a run?
At the most, it'll be 3 or 4 issues.
Right. And in the hopes that people will continue reading it when other creators, it's happened a lot. They've done a lot of that lately, like comedians coming and writing like a couple of books. Kevin Smith obviously is a big guy who like comes and writes a book here and there, and like those get big sales. And then the hope is it brings people in to the world of comics.
Yeah, I guess I know how taken advantage comic book writers can be as it is.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
You know, they don't get a lot of credit for, like, Thor Love and Thunder. You know, it's not like Jason Aaron was consulted with every single day. We know this because he told Ryan that on his podcast. Like,
he did tell me that.
And so it's kind of like, you know what I mean? I'm just trying to, like, protect artists who are trying to do their thing and not let it be another celeb takeover kind of a thing, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
It's totally like, especially with established characters, it's different because like obviously Iman Vellani didn't create Kamala Khan, didn't create Miss Marvel. I do think like there are some cool examples of celebrities putting their weight and their credibility behind books outside of established characters. Like there's a whole thing, Berserker is a fantastically violent comic, and Keanu Reeves is a co-creator of the character, and it's like an incredible thing. So it can be done really well, it can be done really poorly. I have a feeling for like a month or two we're going to be talking about this, and then it's going to go away, and it'll be fun for a month or two. Like Matt said, she's co-writing, and this, I think it could be an opportunity, but several creators said like, you know, hey, this doesn't get more people to read comics. It gets them to like rewatch MCU stuff. It gets them to do that kind of stuff. So yeah, speaking up for comic book fans, like this could be a cool little thing, but it's not going to like shake, you know, Miss Marvel's comics to its core.
And we also don't know what, like, maybe she wanted to be a comic writer because she is a Marvel super fan, and getting the role of Kamala Khan might have been her into the comic arena.
Possible. The one thing I will push back with what Ryan said, the not shaking the comic to its core, like it's called The New Mutant, which like it's bringing it in line to what this is something Marvel Comics have been doing a lot over the last 18 years, 13 years, however, since 2008, is bringing the Marvel Comics universe in line with what the movies are doing. And we saw in Miss Marvel that guitar lick from the X-Men and the mention of her mutation. And so they're making her a mutant instead of Inhuman, so they have to do that in the comic. And I think that's a big part of this story, even though we haven't really touched on it as much. You mentioned it earlier. But yeah, like that's a big part of this, is like they're just trying to bring the comics in line. I think that's really interesting.
And there, like, there's a lot of nuance to this like thing, and it's, you know, comic nerds are going to get really in the weeds about it, and that'll be fun for them. But like, it's not like it's the first time an MCU thing has affected a Marvel comic. Like, let's be honest. I go on Iron Man rants with a few friends fairly regularly. Tony Stark is Robert Downey Jr. now, and people that think they know Tony Stark pre-Iron Man have never read an Iron Man comic. They weren't good, but making Tony Stark Robert Downey Jr. Now that's interesting. So it's been done really well. It's been done, mishandled before, but we'll see. We got to read the book first. We haven't even read the book yet. Maybe it'll be good. Just maybe it'll be enjoyable. I know that scares some people to enjoy something, but it could be fun.
Definitely scares me. Up next, Yellow Jacket star Sarah Desjardins has joined the cast of the upcoming Tron Ares.
Haley, I've never seen Yellow Jackets because it's totally not something I think I would enjoy, but yay for you!
I don't know.
A scorching hot take.
I'm excited for Tron Ares. I like both the other Tron movies, and I like that they're sort of continuing that universe. It's kind of fun. So
nobody else was jumping in, Ryan.
You're right. I just don't know this person. I was hoping someone else did.
I don't either.
Okay, and into the lightning round here. Last story, and I have a feeling this one might stir up some sentiment. Oscar-winning actor and filmmaker Kenneth Branagh appears set to direct a live-action film based on the popular 1990s Disney animated series Gargoyles.
Ryan, Kenneth Branagh is a great actor and a great filmmaker, and Gargoyles is badass, so why the heck not? Like, there's so much nostalgia for like 90s stuff now, that, I mean, Gargoyles is one of those Disney animated series that if you're of a certain age and you're of a certain inclination, you're going to go check it out, at least for curiosity's sake.
They've also had a resurgence of Gargoyles comics, I think, recently.
Yes.
Ryan, do you know who's printing those? It's not Marvel.
No, it's probably a smaller licensed imprint, like maybe like a Boom Studios or Dynamite. I don't know off the top of my head. But
I don't either, but I have seen the stuff. It looks fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of comics now that like they revamped like older animated 80s and 90s series. So it's like, if you want a Gargoyles comic in 2023, you can get that readily at your local comic book store.
Yep.
It looks like it's Dynamite Comics.
Yep.
But weirdly, it's Disney's Gargoyles. Like, it says Disney's Gargoyles at the top, which is just strange because you'd think they would just make it a I guess if it's a Marvel imprint, it would be part of the universe. And
it's probably just a licensing thing. Marvel probably wasn't itching to release some Gargoyle comics.
I don't see why.
I just saw a comment on the chat. Can I say that real quick?
Please.
This isn't a lightning round. It's a full thunderstorm by Karen Thomas.
Sorry, guys. Yeah, this was the most, the least, kept to the rules of a lightning round.
That's what I'm here for.
Even Haley broke them a bunch.
Like once, but okay. Do not sully my name, such.
All right, guys. Well, let's go around and see where everybody can be found online. Sarah Day, first time here. Tell us where we can find you online. Tell us about your podcast.
Yep. Well, you can find me on Instagram at captain.mcdee. That's MCDEE. And then you can find like all of my other things. I co-host Fantasy Heroes with Suhair Ali. And then I co-host Peeves Gabfest with James and Meegs. And that is a Harry Potter chapter by chapter, page to screen analysis in preparation for the new show.
Very cool. That's awesome. Ryan, tell us about where they can find you online and what about your podcast.
So my podcast is Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast. Each and every week we dig into the weird and mighty and worthy world of the Mighty Thor, and we cover new comics, old comics. We have a series going on right now, Creator Spotlight on 80s legend Walt Simonson. So that's been really well received. People are liking that, but we also cover MCU stuff through the lens of Thor. So we're about to cover Secret Invasion, but we're going to cover Thor's interaction with Secret Invasion and his history with the Skrulls. So we got a lot of cool stuff planned. There is I won't give an exact date for this, but there is an impending Haley Hobbs appearance on the show where we will be talking about Frog Thor. So be looking for that. Haley and I have had that in the works for a long time, and it will come to fruition very soon.
Yay!
Awesome. And Haley Hobbs.
Yeah, you can find me at Source Pages with Brian V. Klein, where we read comics and novels as primers for all the geeky TV shows and movies you love. We are diving back into our Secret Wars comprehensive coverage while we have some time between properties right now. And then I'd be remiss if I didn't mention Jay Scotty's show, Animation Deliberation, on the Stranded Panda Network, and Jay's show, Commute the Podcast. Check both of them out as well.
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me at strandedpanda.com. There's lots of shows there. I'm on a lot of them. Check those out. And specifically though, this week, I guess Marvel Cinematic Universe podcast, we're covering, I'm going to be up at 2 a.m. this morning to watch and record the Secret Invasion instant reaction. So, it's in the morning, or I guess when you're listening to this, that episode will also be out. So check that out. Secret Invasion response and reaction first thing tomorrow. And we'll be back soon on Multiverse News. Peace.
You stay classy, Multiverse.